The Pokémon Horizons anime Mega Voltage arc has revealed that a time skip has happened in the series. Liko, Roy and Dot have now grown older, and the biggest question going around is if Ash Ketchum will return and age as well. I may have the answer to this question. So what exactly is going on? At the end of episode 89 of the Pokémon Horizons anime, it was confirmed that 1 year had passed in the series. During that time, Liko returned back to school, Roy went to Kalos, and Dot went back into hibernation. As shown from the promotional material, the gang have all aged and obtained new Pokemon on their team. So what does this mean for Ash Ketchum? Could he also age? And could he return in the Pokémon Horizons series? Let's take a closer look at the timeline and how it could relate to Ash Ketchum. First, we have episode 19. In this episode, we see Liko and Roy visit Motorstoke in the Galar region. Motorstoke was first mentioned in episode 100 of Pokemon Journeys, where Ash planned to take a train there from Wyndon to meet up with Go at the Motorstoke riverbank. Now looking at the city's architecture and surroundings, it doesn't tend to show a lot of wear or aging, implying that not a lot of time has passed from when Ash was last around the city and its proximity. However, the next episode is where things start to become clearer, and this is where we get the full introduction and focus of Kabu, the gym leader of the city. Kabu never made an appearance in Pokemon Journeys, however other Galar gym leaders such as Bee, Alistair, Opal, Piers and Raihan did. Depending on the continuity of this series and the timelines, this could mean that Ash and Liko are both connected in the same timeline due to the presence of these characters that are still representing the league. Looking at Kabu as well, he doesn't seem to look any different to what his game counterpart looks like in terms of age, implying that maybe not a lot of time has passed as to when Ash was adventuring. The only thing that could have helped concrete being a possible connection is if Kabu mentioned about the Darkest Day plot, and how the Galar region was affected by this, relating to the events that Ash faced during his journey. Plus we have also seen characters like Cynthia shown in different universes, even alongside another version of Ash, so the possibility of another Kabu existing in another timeline isn't fully ruled out. So due to this, I'm gonna have to put this connection in the maybe section. Next, we have episode 27. In this episode, Liko and her friends come across a character being the ingredient seller. We first saw this character appear in episode 101 of Pokemon Journeys, where they supplied Ash and Go with curry ingredients. As soon as this character was revealed, the community was going ballistic into thinking that it could be an indicator towards Ash and Liko being in the same timeline. However, due to these NPCs not being a single person, and the fact there are multiple of them in the games, it's not as easy as just saying yes as from what we know. Even though Ash and Liko have both visited the Galar region and encountered this character, it could have been that they are just two separate individuals. Plus, if this seller mentioned Ash or referenced him from a previous manner, then that would have been an easy way to validate this. So for this reason, I'm going to put this also in the maybe section. Moving on, we have Captain Pikachu. Besides being another strong Pikachu, there's one detail from this little guy that could imply that Liko is in a different universe to Ash. In episode 44, Freide and Spinal encounter each other for the first time. During their battle, Spinal ends up mocking Freide for using the Pokemon, questioning if Cap even has a chance. Instantly, this gives me the indication that Pokemon Horizons is in another universe, because after Ash's Pikachu helped him become world champion, a battle televised across the world of Pokemon and different regions, surely Spinal or even Freide would have vouched for Pikachu. Unless the explorers are so oblivious and underground about other world events, which I don't think they are, this proves that Cap was an element that could very much imply that Pokemon Horizons is in a different universe. Now let's talk about Lucius. Lucius is a very interesting character, and could play a huge part in proving that this anime series is in a different universe to Ash. Firstly, he is titled as the Ancient Adventurer, as Roy described him back in episode 4. It was then in episode 12 that we learned that Lucius gathered the 6 heroes, which are a group of ancient Pokemon, with 4 of them being legendary. Whilst I understand that Pokemon Horizons has adapted a new plot, surely you'd think that Ash would have even maybe got this plot associated with him in a special episode or movie, right? Plus, if Ash even knew about Lucius, and how strong he is compared to overtowering Tobias, then I think this would have been much more apparent. Of course, with Ash leaving the anime, it doesn't really help his case. So for now, I'm going to put this in the opposite category. This then leads to Terapagos, a very special Pokemon that also could be the key in helping solving the mystery. In the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games, Terapagos can alter timelines to some extent. As seen both in the games and anime, it has the capabilities of bringing humans, Pokemon and objects, all from other timelines altogether at the point of time and space it's currently in. In the anime's case, Terapagos was able to share visions of Lucius and his Pokemon from the past. I personally think that with all of this amalgamated together with the plot of Pokemon Horizons, it could very much be that Liko is in a different universe to Ash. The plot just seems very diverse to the usual, and with a character like Lucius weighing a great importance on this with Terapagos, I don't think this could correlate to Ash's journey. Finally, we have Gibeon. The boss of the Explorers was first teased in episode 45, and it wasn't until episode 54 that we got to see him live in the flesh, and how he mentioned how he was aiming to get back to Rakua, a place where Lucius lived happily with his Pokemon. From this motive, I again think that this series is in another timeline, simply due to the previous points in relation mentioned about Lucius. I was also going to touch upon Gibeon's red core Zygarde, but there's still little to no information about how this Pokemon was caught. Of course, we've seen various Zygardes and shiny variants of legendary Pokemon in the past, relating to different timelines and realities, but it's best to wait a little longer for us to fully learn a bit more about it. Overall, the table shows that it's not looking good with, and it seems this series is in a different timeline to Ash Ketchum. Horizons has shown literal to no indication of Ash's profound effect as a character, and win as world champion. With everything mentioned before, it seems that there are many aspects that are unclear. The only alternative I could think of is that maybe Liko is having a separate journey to Ash at the same time as him. So now that we've discussed the current timeline of Pokémon Horizons, and if it could be in the same universe as Ash Ketchum, we now need to look at examples of time passing in the Pokémon anime, and how it could relate to Ash Ketchum also aging. In the very first episode of the Pokémon anime, Ash is introduced as a 10-year-old boy who is commencing his Pokémon adventure. Throughout the seasons of the anime, some viewers have theorized that Ash tends to age. This is due to his development and how he's portrayed overall in the said series. It's also due to many taking the aspect of years progressing coinciding to the real world. For example, seeing as XY aired in 2013, many think Ash is age 16 in that said series. But this is where dialogue from Pokemon episodes start to widen the possibilities. Firstly, we have episode 158 of the original series. A goldenrod opportunity was the episode that made it known to viewers that the magnet train was not built. However, in episode 141 of the Black and White series, Best Wishes Until We Meet Again, we see that Iris and Silent plan to use the train to travel from Kanto to Johto. Taking this into account, it indicates that the train was completed within a year. Next, we have the third Pikachu short, named Pikachu and Pichu. Ash states that it has been 1 year since he had commenced his Pokemon journey, also mentioning how it had been 1 year since him and Pikachu met. Now obviously, this would imply that Ash is 11 years old, despite the short airing in the year 2000, with many viewers thinking that even though Ash is meant to be 13, following the year progression age theory. The next anime episodes that indicate that time has lapsed is episode 93 of the Black and White series, titled Goodbye Junior Cup, Hello Adventure. In this episode, Dawn states that she will participate in the next Wallace Cup that is intending to start soon. The Wallace Cup is a special annual Pokemon contest that is hosted at various locations throughout the Pokemon world, and since it is an annual tournament, it indicates that under a year has passed since the episode 75 of the Diamond and Pearl series. Knowing this, it's extremely unlikely or yet possibly impossible for Ash to be a year younger, so if anything, it would be considered that he is older. The only thing holding against the credibility of all of this is the floating timeline aspect that the anime tends to portray, but I'll elaborate on that later. Moving on, we have the Sun and Moon anime. At the end of episode 146, Thank You Alola, The Journey Continues, Professor Kukui and Burnett tease that they were expecting a child. Progressing into episode 37 of the Pokemon Journey series, The New Old Gang of Mine, this is where we got to see baby Lay make his debut. There's no concrete evidence to show how old Lay is or for when he was precisely born. However, looking at Lay himself, we can tell that he is more of a developed baby compared to being newly born, giving us an indication that he is at least 6 to 12 months old. So those are all of the clues of time passing in the Pokemon anime. For those that are unaware, the directors of the anime actually confirm that Ash is in fact forever 10 years old, as this relates to the target audience, and they always wanted to make sure that it fits for the world of children. But now we have to take things a little serious, and let's talk about what has been confirmed for Ash Ketchum's future. In an interview with BBC News Japan, Tenetsukara Ishihara, president of the Pokémon Company, spoke about the future of the Pokemon franchise, stating that if the franchise could continue to create products and services that connect to real and virtual worlds, it will most likely continue for the next 50 to even 100 years. He also went on to make a few comments about the Pokemon anime, specifically in regards to Ash Ketchum and Pikachu. Ash and Pikachu left the franchise back in March of 2023, and since then, there's been many questions surrounding the pair, with the biggest being if they'll ever return. Well, Mr. Ishihara has now finally revealed the answer to this very question. Satoshi and Pikachu's adventure has come to an end, but the camera is no longer following them. Their journey continues as usual, and Pikachu will be there as Ash's partner. So there we have it, guys. At the time of this video, it's been officially confirmed that Ash Ketchum and Pikachu won't be returning to the Pokemon anime. Their adventure is still ongoing somewhere in the world of Pokemon, even if the camera doesn't follow them or showcase them in episodes. It's interesting to learn all of this information, because back in March of 2024, the Pokemon Company International executives Andy Ghost, Senior Director of Media Production, and Taiku Akihura, Vice President of Marketing, spoke to Variety ahead of the Pokémon Horizons launch on Netflix to discuss the new show. During the interview, they got questioned if this truly is the end of Ash, and if we'll ever see him reappear again. They responded by saying the following: "We've said farewell. Ash is still in the world of Pokemon. Anything is possible, I suppose. In the world of Pokemon, there's so many possibilities. we hope Ash and Pikachu continue on their journey. Their journey is ongoing somewhere in the world of Pokemon. It's totally up to the fans' imagination. For the time being, we would like to focus on the new story of Liko and Roy, as Horizons invites a new beginning. Of course, all of the die-hard Pokemon fans are wanting him to return and become the main character of the series, but there are a couple other things they have to consider, especially when it comes to voice acting. Sarah Natachoni has currently reprised roles within the anime, so it may be okay for her to continue her legacy for the dub. However, when it comes to the Japanese side, the main source and root of the Pokemon anime, and of course its production, this is where we have to consider Riko Matsumoto. The beloved voice actor has done over 25 years of voicing Ash Ketchum, or shall we say Satoshi, and the main thing to consider right now is her health and well-being. So we don't know whether or not if she will reprise the role, and I don't think it would be acceptable within the Japanese production for them to replace her, because I know that there's been some heavy debates about how voice actors in Japan getting replaced could cause some controversy upon its fan bases. Plus, at the end of the day, Japan has all of the big dons, so it's them first before anything. Let's now finally talk about how Ash could return and age in the Pokemon anime. With Pokemon Horizons confirming a time skip and the original anime proving time has passed as well, the only way I can see Ash Ketchum returning is either via the 30th anniversary of the Pokemon anime in 2027, or he could return for a special episode or a new movie. Think of it like this: the 30th anniversary of the Pokemon anime could be the perfect opportunity for writers to bring Ash back in either a special episode within Pokemon Horizons, or maybe by implementing a brand new movie. When it comes to the movie aspect, this is most likely either going to be in the alternate universe, seeing as that's been the current run of the Pokemon movie cycle. We haven't had a Pokemon movie for some time now, so it could be in celebration of this special occasion. This is where we'll see him return. It could be that maybe a brand new movie with a brand new character could get revealed, and then we'll actually see a new version of Ash Ketchum being much older, just to drop an even bigger bombshell. Alternatively, maybe the writers could implement Ash in just one episode of Pokemon Horizons to not only again bring the hype and shock factor, but for him to also be involved within the story of the series. This once again could be tied into the 30th anniversary of the Pokemon anime. I've always dreamed to see Ash be shown as an aged character in the Pokemon anime, and whilst everything we've discussed today shows that he may not return for a while, I have hope that adult Ash Ketchum will be born one day to make history in the Pokemon anime.